Hello, everyone. Uh, Actually, I don't know if I have the time to reflect on your excellent introduction. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that I took some reflection of what you said in the beginning, and how I had into my mind to start this panel discussion is that I wanted to highlight that Guin wrote this short, influential essay titled "The Career Back Theory of Fiction." In which she introduced the anthropologist Elizabeth Fisher's insight that the first cultural device was probably a recipient, such as a push, a net, or a bag, rather than some sort of implement of violence, like the spear. So I was thinking, like, starting from that, how can we use this theory in order to create technology? Or like how we can create art based on this narrative? And how does the art interplay with technology? And based on what you shared before, I think that the narratives that we create in the society play a detrimental role on how we can fiction, we can envision the digital society and how the arts can contribute to this envision. So based on that, I would like to introduce you to the panelist speakers. Please help me with that. The first one is Dasha Ilina. The second one is Ginevra Petrozzi. I'm sorry for the pronunciation, really. And the third one is Thierry Galle. Please help me with that. Check the time. Hello, welcome. Oh, yes. Yes. And there is also. So welcome. It is my pleasure to meet you. Yes. Thank you so much. So Dasha. Dasha, the pronoun is she, her, and she's a Russian techno-critical artist based in Paris, in France. Through the employment of low-tech and DIY approaches, her work questions the desire to incorporate modern technology into our daily lives by highlighting the implications of actually doing so. So first of all, I would like to, if you have some things to share about your work, like you can introduce yourself, what you would like to highlight of your work, and then I would like to ask you some questions based on Le Guin's book and the theory of fiction.
Yeah, sounds great. I have some slides, so I might need your help to change them. Yeah, you can already click on the next one. So I just wanted to, give a very quick overview of the type of work that I do, just so that everyone has an idea of what I do. With my work, I very much critically look into how technology affects us, our society, us humans, our bodies also a lot. So this was one of the first works that I've done in 2016 called Are You Watching? When I was looking into how the way that we exist in public space can change because of the existence of surveillance cameras. So this specifically was actually, I had found a bunch of unprotected web cameras that were streaming streets in Moscow. For what reasons, I still don't know. And so I asked a friend of mine to help me with this performance where I was living in Paris and she lived in Moscow, where I'm from originally. And so she had these posters up where she performed in front of the cameras. Could you click on the next one? Another project that I've worked on, which looks very specifically at the body, is Center for Technological Pain. So with Center for Technological Pain, I was creating DIY solutions to health problems that come from technology. Using very sort of low-tech and cheap materials in order to look at what kind of pain can come from technology. You can click on the next one. So this is kind of what it looks like in an exhibition setting sometimes. There was also a self-defense against technology kind of YouTube tutorial. More to start a conversation. Another project of mine looking at how much time we spend on our phones is Do Humans Dream of Online Connection? So this is an embroidery that I did by hand. I think it took me about 3 months. Basically during the whole COVID confinement, I embroidered an iPhone, my iPhone, twice the size on a pillow on which I was sleeping. So yeah, I guess also looking at the fact that basically the only time that we spend away from phones is when we're asleep, and tech companies are trying to reduce that time as much as possible. So another work is Let Me Fix You, looking into robotic care, and basically, yeah, there's all of these care devices that exist now that take the shape of robots, which vary from one model to another. They can be for like as a companion, or they can also be something more practical to move you from one space to another, to remind you to take your pills. And there's a lot of feminist researchers that look into how unethical this can be, and also like the different problems that could come from replacing human care workers by robotic ones. Okay, I'm almost there. So this is my most recently done work, which is Advice Well Taken, which I did as part of the UMAP European Media Arts Platform residency in Utrecht at Impact. And with this project, I was looking at different tech lore stories, what I've been calling them. So technological folklore stories, which are these kinds of knowledges that we all basically have about the way that we imagine or we know that technology works. So like one very common one that I would bring up is if you spill something on your phone, everyone always tells you put it in rice. And I still don't know where that came from, who came up with that first. Does it actually work? Some people say it does. Some other people say it doesn't. So yeah, those are the kind of stories that I was collecting with the project. And the last thing I wanted to show is a project that I'm currently working on. It's not finished yet, but actually it kind of makes a full loop to the very first slide, which is why I wanted to show it. You might not be able to tell from this image, but the project is actually about surveillance. So looking into this new law that was implemented in France recently about algorithmic video surveillance in lieu of the Olympic Games. And kind of discussing it by starting with a video tutorial of a grilled cheese sandwich, because when I was basically doing research on this new surveillance, at some point I got so stuck in this very technical explanations that I decided that I needed to go back and actually look at what is an algorithm, how do we define AI or algorithms. And one example that everyone kept bringing up is that it's like a recipe for a grilled cheese sandwich. And this was actually something that kept coming up a lot in kind of YouTube tutorials. And I really didn't understand why this very specific recipe. I think just because it's a really easy sandwich to make. That's my theory anyway. So I'm also using that idea in order to talk about like much broader issues about surveillance and algorithms.
Amazing. Actually, while you were talking, I was reflecting and I realized that your work touches upon feminist issues. Like, for instance, we know that digital technologies surveil mostly the bodies of femininities, female bodies. Like, for instance, they use generative AI in order to create sexualized deepfakes. But of course, the use of generative AI is not limited only to deepfakes, but I am just sharing one example. Or like, for instance, we know that femininities' bodies are surveilled on social media because, for instance, in content moderation processes, we know that when the algorithm detects female nudity, it is restricted. It is regarded as not in accordance with the terms and conditions of the platform. But when there is a nudity of male body, there is not a problem at all. So, based on that, I wanted to ask you how you could envision a feminist future. And actually, would this story of fiction, the theory of fiction, be influenced by how we can envision this theory that can be implemented when we use digital technologies? And yeah, do you think that we can incorporate digital technologies in our feminist future or not? I mean, like based that they are
Yeah.
surveil us.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I think not most of the technologies that currently exist. I mean, there are communities, of course, that are working on creating feminist tools or on making technology more feminist. I'm thinking about Constant in Brussels, for example, or Varia in Rotterdam, or Servus in Linz. So there are, of course, communities that are working on that and that are trying to make technology more inclusive. But I think like the tools that already exist and the ones that are most popularly used, they're, the people who are making them are not the ones who even really care about feminism at all. I feel like the best example of that is the fact that Facebook started as a website for rating the attractiveness of women. And I mean, this is a platform that we're still using by the same guy who still made that, which is maybe a bit of an outdated example. I mean, because that happened a long time ago in a technology timeline. I'm also thinking about how virtual reality, for example, is also very exclusive of certain bodies. I mean, I know personally speaking, I could never really use virtual reality headsets because they always made me really nauseous. And so at some point I just decided, okay, like this technology is just not for me and I have to accept that and that's fine. But then I started hearing a lot of other people and especially a lot of women saying that virtual reality was making them nauseous. So I was like, okay, now I'm actually really curious and I want to look into it. So I did look into it, and then one of the researchers that I found, which was actually kind of like a military research, because virtual reality came first as a technology for simulating, I think, fighter jets or something like this. And so the research was that actually, just biologically speaking, women and men, or white people or people of color, children and adults, have a different depth perception. So because it's generally white men who are making virtual reality, or at least the programs that are on the virtual reality headsets, there's a huge population. I mean, most of the world is actually excluded from it because people of color get nauseous, women get nauseous, children get nauseous. So there's a very sort of privileged small group of people, relatively small group of people that actually doesn't have the negative side effects from that. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of changes that need to be done in order for technology to be more feminist.
But I think the first change was already made, because I really liked your interdisciplinary approach on that. That, of course, we have to focus on gender, but also on other types of discrimination that are intertwined with gender discrimination, like race discrimination, age discrimination, probably. But yeah, now I would like you to share more about the project Let Me Fix You, because I found it fascinating, because I think this phrase is connotated with inherent female messages about the concept of female care that is actually based in a patriarchal society. So I don't know if you agree with that. Like, do you think that femininities, female users, are coded with the fact that they have to care about other people, about men, and they are the only one who can fix them? So, like, in this way, they take the responsibility of their personal development and fixing this work, while we know that digital technologies are designed and mostly deployed by white, cis, straight men. So yeah, what are your reflections on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, the title for me doesn't really reflect on that specifically. Like, it's not talking about this whole idea of how women think they can fix men if they're in sort of unfortunate relationships. For me, the title actually came from an already existing kind of YouTube community of ASMR artists. Yeah, I didn't mention earlier, but that video is an ASMR video. Yeah, I mean, because basically I was doing research into these care robots, and I got kind of lost at some point trying to figure out how do I translate this research that I'm doing to the public. And then at some point I just kind of randomly stumbled upon a whole sub-community of ASMR artists on YouTube who work or whose work is kind of pretending like the viewer is a robot that they're fixing. So then the whole process of the video is just women saying like, oh, I'm going to fix the screws and it's a little loose and let me fix this up a little bit. And so all of the videos are called something like that, like, let me repair you, I will fix you, something is loose, I will help, I don't know. But so the title actually came from that very specific subgenre, I guess. But it's interesting that I didn't see that reading of the title at all. But it definitely also reflects, on the fact that it's women often doing this kind of care work and the work of fixing and I guess the informal maintenance, the societal maintenance. Yeah.
Thank you. And I have one last question, and then probably more questions will come in the Q&A part at the end of this round session. The last question that I have for you is that how do you think that we can use art in order to change the narratives of the society? And first of all, actually, probably this is a sub-question. Do we need to change the narratives of the society? Like, for instance, Ursula K changed this narrative of the society, of the history, that we thought that, okay, probably there is another, there was another vision anyway. Vision, narrative, I don't know what words to use, but how do you think that we can use art in order to change some narratives of the society, if we want to change them? Mm-hmm. And do you use art in your work for this purpose, to change the narrative of the society?
I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering if it's giving art more credit. I think art is very powerful. I don't know how much real change it actually brings, on a one-person level. I think the power comes from collaborating with other people, from building communities. I by myself am not going to change the world, but when we're sitting together and we're talking and we're introducing other people to new topics, then that's where change is possible, maybe. I feel for me, this is also a reason why with my work I do a lot of workshops, because I always struggle. I love doing exhibitions and I love showing my work in an exhibition environment, but I always struggle kind of gauging what the audience is actually getting out of that. Because unless you're standing next to your project, you don't know what they're thinking or how much time they're spending in front of the work, if they're even reading the text that you spent so long writing. So because of that, I try to do a lot of workshops. Basically with every project that I come up with, I have a workshop that comes along with it, because I feel that's the best way for me to, I guess, change the narrative of society the way that you say, or just, to just educate people, or to talk to them about questions that I find important. That's how I see my role as an artist, is to find things that I find important and then basically find a way to translate it to the public.
Thank you so much. Now, I would like you to introduce Ginevra Petrozzi. Do I pronounce your name correctly? Okay. The pronouns are, I'm sorry. The pronouns are she, her, and she's based in Rome, in Italy. She's an interdisciplinary.
I'm from Rome, but I'm based in the Netherlands.
I'm sorry. Yes, she's based in the Netherlands, but she's from Italy, from Rome, and she's an interdisciplinary designer and artist. Her work explores the possibility of mysticism and the occult within the landscape of contemporary technopolitics. Through critical research, performance, and installation, she aims to make space for other ideas and forms of intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom, both human and non-human. I found it super interesting. First of all, I would like to ask you, do you have anything to share about your current work? What are the projects that you work on? Yeah.
Sure. I'm not sure if I also have some slides, images that I sent. I do, I think. Maybe no. No, it's not a problem. We can stay in the grilled cheese. I think it's really nice. Yes, so the description of my work is a bit cryptic, I realize, listening to it like this. But in in much simpler words, I like to observe. I like this. I've been studying the laws, let's say, of magical thinking, starting from more ethnological studies from Ernesto De Martino in the 50s in the south of Italy, and continuing with Federico Campagna and Technique and Magic, and with, of course, Silvia Federici and Caliban and the Witch, talking about more from the political point of view, the magic practices and the figure of the witch specifically. And but yes, in very simple words, I enjoy observing where magical thinking has infiltrated our current techno-capitalist society. And I like to disprove the notion of modernism, and that we have escaped animism, and that we have escaped the future in its fate-like form, because we do connect the fate or destiny or a pre-written future to a primitive society and to a set of knowledge and a set of practices like witchcraft or rituals, talismans, amulets, or figures like the witch, to get a hold of this pre-written future. And ontologically, we have shifted from that. God is dead, enlightenment, no. And we like to think that we are in an open future, so that each of our actions shapes the future. And with my work, I try to question this and argue that we still are in a fate-like system, but only the agents that control it have changed. And this is why, for me, it made sense to reappropriate magic practices to get some control or agency over techno-capitalism. So what this materially developed into is merging ancient practices, magic practices of some kind with to solve current problems. And the first thing that this led me to do was to read targeted advertisement, as yours, about Alzheimer's, or suggested content, or For You pages, everything that basically an algorithm could suggest you to look at. I look at it as a very serious prediction. And I read it, I want to read it, and I want to interpret it using the best tool that we have to interpret images and symbols and texts, tarots. And tarots are an incredible tool. And of course, all divination tools, so future reading tools, they are born from the assumption that the future is written. So the fate-like system that I was speaking about. And they are technically plausible in that system, because if the future is already written, you can just peek into it with a tool like tarots or like palmistry, runes. And by looking into it, you gain some control over it. So the first project I did was to use divination to interpret modern predictions, and to see if the qualities of tarots, of understanding symbols and patterns, could be harnessed for this gigantic set scroll of predictions that we receive every day, and that we never stop to interpret, let's say. So this was one of my, I think this is the project, this project about tarots is called Digital Esoterism. And that's a bit what I connect with this magical thinking in technology, is what I called digital esoterism. And this continued. So if at some point with this project I was trying to interpret these predictions, then I was trying also to hack them. And one of the laws that maybe you also have in the last project that you showed, it's that the devices are listening to us. And that if you scroll online, it's 50% of the articles say, no, it's not true, let me tell you. And the other 50% says, yes, definitely true, let me tell you. So I like this ambiguity, but I also like the fact that regardless if it's truth or not, it's embedded as a mythology, as an urban legend. And I receive constantly messages from friends, peers, because I'm the algorithm person now. So people send me their content and telling me, I think they're just reading into my mind. I was just thinking about this and this popped up. And I was like, sure, of course they do. It's magic. And so I tried to harvest this lore, this myth, that they are listening to us, thinking that if we say to them what we want to receive, or another future that we would like to be in, then we would start receiving that content, and then a lot of things could change. And so in an iteration of this, I was trying to hack the algorithm with this group of female identifying people in Rome in a workshop. First, there was a week of gathering all the content that they received and printing it out. And it's exactly what you expect. So like waist slimming, shoes, diets, pregnancy tests, period control, period monitoring apps, and all of these things. And then I asked them to write their perfect future and to be as utopic or as realistic as they wanted. And some of the futures were like, I sleep perfectly. This is my perfect future. And another one was, I woke up and where there's no man anywhere. And I'm not threatened by the presence of man. Work is beauty, and we only work because we want to. Or I live in a villa in the countryside, all of these things. And they recited it to their devices to change what they would have received or hoping. So yeah, this is in a nutshell, interpreting, hacking, but for me this is a magic spell. It's not very different from a depiction of a witch whispering words into a cauldron of potion, trying to change or to manipulate her reality. Yeah, this is me.
Thank you so much for sharing. Oh my God, so many reflections. First of all, my sincere apologies if you sent me the slides and I didn't store them.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, I think that the discussion flows fine, so I'm sorry.
The images you would have seen is me at a table doing this with looking like I'm reading tarots, and another one with women in front of their phones speaking, so
okay.
It's fine.
I will try to fix this. And secondly, oh my God, so many reflections. First of all, I would like to confirm that yes, the devices are listening to us, at least they listen to me. It happened to me once, I was in the supermarket in front of the fridge and I just said loudly, oh my God, I found my milk. Just this phrase, my milk. I went back home, I opened the Wi-Fi, because I was using the data. So I went back, I used the Wi-Fi, and I had that period, I had an Instagram account. So I opened my account on Instagram, and the first advertisement that was pumping up was one of my milk. And not just of this company, and it was not just one random milk, it was the specific a mix of coconut milk and almond milk. And I am like, oh my God, they know what is my favorite milk. And it was the only one that I was looking like that time in the fridge. So probably, yeah, I felt that I was playing in a Big Brother show, and nobody asked me, nobody told me that. But I really felt that I am under surveillance. I don't know, probably it was a coincidence. Okay, we can examine it. But yeah, I am on the part that who support that the devices listen to us. So I had prepared other questions for you, but based on what you said, I have other reflections, if I can reshape somehow my questions. So yeah, like as you said that we woke up and in this world there are no men. This reminds me the story. Yeah, it reminds me the story of a case in United Kingdom in UK. A recent case about a teenage girl who used the metaverse like a virtual game reality. And when she entered in the metaverse, in this post-humanist environment, she was raped. She was approached by 5 male users and she was raped. So she felt it as a physical, although there was not a physical rape, a physical violence, she experienced all these psychological effects of this instance. So I was wondering, like, if we need to use like imaginative power, the power of imagination, as you said, can we envision a future that the men do not exist? I mean, like, I think that nobody wants that, but how? Like, if you have to choose, like, let's say the heroines or the heroes of this of this future, not feminist future, apologies, of this future, like, what magical heroines or heroes you could imagine, like, with a power, with which kind of norms? Like, I mean, like, we use imagination, but what norms do we constitute in this imagination?
There's many layers to this question. So the intro. I don't think the point is having heroines. And that's also what Ursula Le Guin says, no? That it's not about having the hero anymore, because the hero is very much connected to the idea that the hero kills, the hero conquers. And
that's why I asked the question of norms. Yeah, because we don't want to replicate violence. So.
Yeah, I think, so if it's not heroines, what is it? Well, I can only speak from what I have tried, what my methodology until now has been, which is maybe not an answer to your question. I think other archetypes, and I think the archetype that I'm the most fond of is the one of the witch, because yes, it's iconographically a female figure, but not only. It's a figure that is connected to sexual liberation, to political rebellion, to reproductive rights, but also to healing and being part of a community in a generative way, in a caring way, but also dangerous, because it's the one that also iconographically eats children, or steals penises as well. So I really like the complexity of the archetype of the witch, and that's the one I chose to navigate these systems, because I think it reacts really well to the violence and to the control that technological systems and the people that sometimes people that navigate them exert. Yeah, that's why I think magical practices are so important for me, is because they give agency to something that you have no control of. And so that's why in many instances it's what we rely on when we don't have any other option, when there is something out of our control. And that's why usually also they're used for love potions, or because it's very difficult to control love, or why in Romania witches gathered to avoid the election of a certain politician, batting the picture of this politician with stones. And it's also something that you cannot really control. So I don't think if new norms are needed. I think that probably I like to think of the need of new metaphors or new archetypes to embody, or at least that's what I've been trying to do. Yes.
Huge thanks. I'm sorry, but I don't want to waste the time. I think we can continue the discussion in the Q&A or after on during the break. I would love to ask you more. And now I would like to introduce you Thierry Galle. The pronouns are he, him. He's affiliated to Kask School of Arts, University College of Ghent as artistic researcher. His work is also about the difficult relationship between digital technology and contemporary culture. He uses recent software and digital imaginary in an unconventional way and stresses the role of technology in our daily life in an artistic creation. Recently, Galle explores the use of language that is co-created with artificially intelligent algorithms, the mediation of the world through ever circulating and replicating texts are both bot and human generated. And based on that, I would, first of all, I would like to ask you if you have anything to share about your current work that you would like to highlight. And based on that, we can have a discussion.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I didn't bring any images, but I'll just briefly explain what I do. I mainly work with technology for a long time now, and I've been trying to disrupt that technology in the studio, because I don't really like maybe the male way of thinking about it, and I like to introduce some kind of uncertainty in this working with this technology and disrupt it in that way. I've been doing that for a long time. Recently, I've been trying to disrupt AI also. The work I'm showing here downstairs is, I can briefly explain, I downloaded as much fonts and texts that I could find from the past, maybe a little bit of the future, and I trained an AI with all these languages and asked the AI to write a future message to itself, so that I think future AIs could decipher it, but it's not made for humans. It's only made for technology in that way, for AIs. I like that idea because it's an artwork made for future AIs and not so much for people now. This notion of doubt is important to me because we've been talking about gender and all these male or capitalist strategies that there are so involved in technology. And I think this is maybe a way to mediate more with technology, to disrupt it in that way, so that we can experience it in a more free way maybe, or a less targeted way. That's mainly what I do. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And so if I understood correctly, like you are influenced by digital technologies. I mean, like the emergence of the digital technologies influence your work. So how you can think that art can contribute in order for us to envision, let's say, like a more humanist-friendly digital future? because you mentioned before that AI technology and digital technologies are not built for the human beings, but how we can rebuild them, refriction them.
Well, that's a really big question, but
Yeah,
I think, yeah, I think AI is for me one of many intelligences that are going around in the world, and you have this very human-centered world at the moment where we're ecologically and all these disasters that are happening. So I think if we maybe refocus to not being so human-centric, also with technology, and try and build a better future with that in mind. So a little bit post-humanist, or I think that's the way forward. It's not easy because there's all these big companies that are forcing us to think in a certain way about technology, and it's really hard to get rid of that, especially when you have to buy milk and all these things. So I think maybe that's a way forward, but it's a rocky road, I think.
So based on that, you think that we need a non-human approach, like to focus more on the environment or like on non-human things in order to change the narratives, in order to fiction another part of the story correctly, or this?
Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities in nature that are that we can tap into and use as possible futures to go ahead with. We're only using the human brain now as a map for the internet, and although with fungi now it's becoming clear that they also have a network and have a certain kind of intelligence. So these things are for me now very interesting, and shift away from this always the human in the center, and shift to what used to be in the center, maybe in the magical world also nature and biology.
While I was reading your bio, I found that you worked on the project Critical AI Manifesto. And I was wondering, like, I wanted to ask you, like, what is the critical statement that you received during that project that you wanted to highlight and share with the audience and with us?
I think the most valuable thing about that project was coming together with, so we organized these events and where we could get maybe 10 statements about AI, but we invited also a local baker and people from the neighborhoods, and also some AI specialists and technologists and people like that. And we had discussions about it, which was really mind-opening for me, because normally you only talk to like fellow coders about AI and you talk about the technical stuff, but they had a different take on these things, so it broke this a bit open. Yeah.
Great. And do you think that I don't know, because every of you highlighted that we need like freedom and how we can envision freedom in digital technology. So I was wondering, like, it's a question for every of you, like how we can liberate ourselves, how we can use like art to feel more free, or like to find, do we need art in order to find some values on freedom that we need to reflect on the digital technologies? What are your reflections on that?
Well, I think you said it already, that I think it's about the collaboration with different disciplines or science, or a lot of different people should come together. I don't think it will come only from the art world. There needs to be kind of a mix of knowledge and
Thanks.
Is the question how to liberate yourself from technology, or how to liberate yourself, period?
Ourselves, yes, from technology.
From technology? I mean,
do we want to liberate ourselves from technology? I don't know. I mean, like, I don't want to be provocative.
You should. I don't think we want fully. I don't think we can fully.
I don't know. I mean, this is a super broad question. I think it's obviously different from one person to the next. I think if somebody really wanted to liberate themselves from technology, they would just not have a smartphone or not have I mean, I don't know. It's just.
But then you walk in Moscow and there's a camera recording you, no?
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a smartphone in your pocket. So I don't think it's for the person.
Yeah, that's also why I feel like it's first of all different for every person. It's also different for what you define as technology and how, like, what. Yeah, no, there is no way of liberating yourself.
I mean, I've associated freedom with agency. So if freedom is not possible, then maybe agency is, or at least it gives you that idea of freedom, which can also be dangerous because when you feel free and you feel like you have agency, but you're still under control, then it's 1984 all over again. But I have associated magic practices with gaining agency, because when I cannot completely opt out of these systems, then for me interpreting is already a way to gain agency. And if I speak words into it as a spell, or if I speak words in your coffee to make you fall in love with me, the fact that you would or not fall in love with me has no importance. The importance is the agency that I get over my own reality to do that. And so I think I've already put under the bed the fact that I can gain more freedom. I don't know if you feel the same. And I have just accepted the fact that I can at least try in other ways, at least to feel control over it.
How do you define liberation then?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably like don't feel restricted. Feel that you have the agency to decide your own future. I don't know. This is how I interpret.
That's when the politicians come into play.
Sorry, I'm not.
But restricted in terms of
the choices that I have.
Yes.
I think maybe slowing down is a good thing. Not constantly looking for that drug and try and do that for yourself at least, which is not easy, I know, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was also getting at with like making the personal choice of if you want to liberate yourself from your phone, there is a way out. You get a different phone or you find other ways to communicate. But yeah, the question is, do we actually want to do that? Or can we actually afford to do that? Like, can you afford to be an artist and not have a smartphone? Is anyone going to know about your work?
I recently met someone who has a completely different approach. And she's a curator that I worked with, and she showed me that she has 7 different Instagram profiles. And in each of these profiles, she is a different person. So in one, she's a teenage Korean boy. And in one, she's a Russian grandmother. And she wants to see what type of content she would receive if she only enters that specific echo chamber, which for me is fucking up much more than turning off your phone. This is, for me, is much more liberating than
damage the algorithm.
Opting out. I also don't want to opt out. I want to see how the algorithm grows and how it starts to suggest me different things. What it was suggesting me one year ago was completely different from what I'm receiving right now, and how ChatGPT or how a neural network is working now is also completely different from how it was working 1 year ago. I want to still know decipher.
But it's pretty boring, ChatGPT and.
No, but there are many others, no?
Yeah, I find it very boring and predictable.
Yeah, I have a question for you actually about that, because earlier you said AI is one kind of intelligence. Do you actually consider it an intelligence?
Boring intelligence.
Yeah, it's boring intelligence. It's some kind of knowledge machine. I wouldn't call it intelligence because it's already like with a human take on it. But it's some kind of knowledge machine, yeah, that's for sure. It just eats up knowledge and spits it out again.
Yeah.
I don't think
It
it
lacks
thinks
wisdom.
for itself, but yeah.
Lacks like what an elder figure would have, which is knowledge plus experiences, wisdom.
Yeah, it's very adolescent intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do enjoy speaking to ChatGPT to ask about technology. So like what you were saying of these the AI messages, that they are not for the humans, but they're spec for future AIs. Yeah. Sometimes I like to ask ChatGPT from an opinion from this point of view of technology. Sometimes it's not boring.
It's kind of predictable, but anyway,
No,
for me, yeah.
I think there's really some pathways that one can find that the answers that you receive are not calculable, and but okay, let's see you visualize something in your dream, or you receive an image. Okay, I'm referring to a very specific example, so I will just talk about this example. So I've participated in this meditation session, which was about thinking of the silica and the minerals that you have inside of your bodies as the ones that are also part of nature and are also part of technology. And in this it was a bit of a seance, like a Victorian seance, of trying to get in contact with technology as a group and asking, what do you want from us? And what do you want for yourself? And we asked to receive, it's a bit mystic, but we asked to receive images and words. And I received a rubber duck. And that was very confusing for me. And then what we did was, let's ask another system. Let's ask a feedback. And I asked ChatGPT what the rubber duck could mean in this context of this meditation, for what technology would want for humans. And the rubber duck is a term used for rubber duck debugging, when a coder tells their code line to line to a rubber duck, which would, for the point of view of ChatGPT, would mean technology wants from humans to divide bigger problems into smaller ones and be thorough. And I really I didn't find it boring at all as an answer.
Well, I don't like all the red flags and as soon as you go into a bit of muddy waters, or you're trying to go away from the, let's say, norm, it gives you a red flag and it just stops giving you information because it's coded like that also.
Can you define the red flag and the norm?
Oh yeah, if you use something that is outside of what you should use on the internet without raising a red flag, all these things. For instance, gender-related issues, that it immediately flips out, and so it's boring because it's programmed that way. It can't go any further than this limit. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you because I really follow the discussion, and I have other questions as well. But I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience. I'm sorry, but we have to give some time also to the audience, and we can continue the discussion afterwards. So do you have any question? Yes?
There was a version of GPT that it could make you, say, how to make a bomb. That's what we were talking about, right? That it was uncensored. Yeah, that it was uncensored, and then it got censored. And my question is maybe, what do you think happened with the uncensored GPT that's still somewhere?
Well, it's probably in the confines of the company, and they keep that to themselves, I think. Yeah. Which is a pity, in a way. Yeah.
If you could build your own AI, if you would train it, what were the things you would include? Thanks. What would the first things be you'd like to implement into it?
The first?
The first, I don't know, ideas or what would the focus be of how you would train your own AI? Because as artists, you obviously have something you want to convey, and with an AI, you can train it in a specific way so that it becomes a version of you almost, or something completely different. So that's sort of like an open-ended question. You can do with that whatever you want.
Me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I've done that a lot, train AIs myself. So I like the tiny versions of AIs that are that don't have red flags to start with, and I can kind of manipulate into ways that are that kind of impress me sometimes also, or give me crazy results that I myself would never have thought of. So, and also like the degrowth scenario of that you don't have these gigantic
You want to be
gigabytes.
surprised, basically.
Everybody wants to be surprised. But, no, I think it's interesting to build them from the bottom up and let them loose and see what happens. Yeah.
Like raising a child.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the first things I would put, but you expect my answer, is going to be Kabbalah, astronomy, I Ching, any possible written oracle existing, Mesopotamian omens, tarots, runes, palmistry, Indian Samudrika, starting from there, and but I don't know what I would use it for. I don't think I would use it to answer questions about life as we are used to. Maybe I would like to use completely different data set to ask about that, and then to use this data set that it's extremely rooted in human experience, but also mysticism and the occult, for maybe technical questions. Maybe how do we split the particles at CERN?
I'd love to chat with it.
I'll be boring and say that I wouldn't train my own AI. I find AI way too problematic, and I don't think we need any more of it.
That's a good answer.
Jerry, your AI messages, is it, when I was looking at it, and I was thinking about Carl Sagan, who for the first Voyager, or one of the Voyager trips, he made a CD-ROM, like with all kinds of languages, all kinds of music, pictures, no nude pictures, well, nude statues, but all kinds of things that he thought were like very human, and then to send it out in space for people or creatures, beings, to discover that later. With your AI messages, you do like a kind of the opposite. You think like, I mean, yeah. What did you think?
About the comparison?
Yeah, no, about what the intention was. Like, or the comparison, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like it that it will stay for a long time and that it's not made for the now. It's made for peeking beyond the future or something like that. So it will remain there. I also like that it's aluminium. Yeah. So I like that part, and I would like to. I was thinking for at a certain point, I was thinking to bury it somewhere or to just get rid of it, but then I thought that's maybe waste, and that's not a good idea. So
I wanted to ask you where you were planning to put it.
Yeah, I was thinking about putting it somewhere where nobody can find it, but not sending it into space, because I don't believe in aliens. But yeah, so.
Yeah, no, I just had to think about it because it's a message. I mean, it's like a message that goes out to beings that you don't know yet.
Yeah, specifically AIs in the future. I think they would find it very funny to like future AI, let's say 2,000 years.
That's very spectacular.
I think you would just think it as a joke or just laugh with it or find it very crude and annoying. You know.
Maybe you scare them.
I don't think so. I think it or maybe they're gone by then, AIs, and it's just like a Rosetta Stone for nothing. she's also fine by me. Yeah.
Maybe they'll try to find other of these things and make a bag like Guin.
Maybe they'll invent a new Moses and think it's the 10 Commandments or something.
So we have 1 more minute if anybody has a last question to ask. No, but I will take the advantage of the time. And yeah, I will give you like, not 1 minute, like half minute each in order like as a closing remarks, what you would like to share, like 1 sentence, 2 sentences.
I think what you said about finding agency was very interesting. I mean, the Adviceful Taken project that I was working on was also very much about that, like collecting these stories that somehow illustrate that we really desperately want to regain agency over our devices. And well, for me, doing that is through storytelling. Yeah, let's regain agency.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about the liberation question. So I think it's necessary to change the narrative, and I think Ursula K. Guin is a good start for that. Yeah.
My last statement. Maybe I'm still thinking of the intelligence. No, what can my last statement be? It's quite a difficult responsibility. I would say for what this panel was about, so starting from the carrier bag and seeing technology as a possible new carrier bag. I think, okay, yes, I will go back to archetypes because I really love them. And to finding new archetypes to embody. I also think the witch, for example, is quite an old one right now. She has been juiced, and maybe now it's time to find new archetypes. And so this is an invite to myself as well. And I think both of you in many ways are also very magic. And I'm trying to learn a new language to speak with these systems. So I'm really happy to be in this circle of translators. And that was my last statement.
What I put in my carrier bag, thanks to you today, is that what I give is that art adopts like a collective approach, like that we need the interaction, we need each other, and in this way we can create, like we can use imagination to create sympathy, and with sympathy we can be more engaged into our societies. So this is what I will keep from today's discussion, and it's time for a break. Thanks to everyone for your time and for your presence, and looking forward to seeing you in the next panel discussion in 15 minutes. Thank you.